I have this vision, Tom, that it's only a matter of time before the post office issues a stamp, and it's a series of centrists, and it basically has a thing, endangered species. And Joe Lieberman was one of the best.
I look at his politics and his courage at the time and a lot of heat and critique of moving left to right. Do you have a tendency now to see people from the polarized right moving to the center, or is that a fiction for another day and age?
I think it's mostly a fiction for another day and age. Most of the incentives or pressures in American politics, from money to political support to attention, is to move, if I may use a football metaphor, on this opening day of baseball, towards the end zones rather than the middle of the field. It takes a lot of guts. It takes often a willingness even to lose. If you're going to put country before party or your own personal ambitions, you've got to be prepared to lose. And I haven't noticed, Tom, a whole lot of people who are prepared to.
Richard, there's so many hot spots around the world. We could benefit from your analysis here. Let's start with the Middle East. I know you've had recently someone's perceived as a radical plan, a radical suggestion for President Biden about how he should deal with Mr. Netanyahu as it relates to what's happening in Gaza. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, what I've basically been saying is he doesn't have a partner in this Israeli government or this Israeli prime minister. All of his efforts at persuading them haven't amounted to much of anything. So he's got to go over their head. He's got to speak directly to the Israeli people about Israel's future. If it wants to remain a secure, prosperous, Jewish democratic state, it's got to choose a different path in Gaza. It's got to choose a different path in the West Bank. And I even suggested he go to the Knesset, do it from the floor of the Israeli parliament, take a page out of Bibi Netanyahu's book, who came to Washington, spoke from the Congress to speak against the Iran nuclear deal. But I don't quite care whether he does it from the Knesset or not. I think, though, what we're actually seeing is the administration is moving away from a policy that's predicated on persuading Bibi Netanyahu, and they're dealing much more with a policy that's either independent. We're going to provide aid. We're going to veto this resolution or introduce our own, and essentially pressuring the Israeli government. So I think it's a healthy change.
What is the status of Netanyahu in Israel right now? Does he still have the support given what's happened over the last several months?
Yeah, I mean, the polls show he's quite unpopular, but there's only two ways to remove a sitting prime minister, and that's through a parliamentary reshuffle or an election. At the moment, I don't see a parliamentary reshuffling coming about. It's not clear to me that his current coalition partners want to dump him, not because they love him, but they love being in power. And at the moment, there's not a mechanism to get from here to new elections. It's possible the government could be brought down on any number of issues. If you remember, before October 7th, the dividing issue in Israel was about the role of the courts in democracy. Now there's big debates about whether the ultra-Orthodox ought to be conscripted. So there's lots of ways, lots of fault lines in Israeli politics. Right. But at the moment, like it or not, Bibi Netanyahu is prime minister.
Ambassador Haas, we stagger into April. We have a clear image, a history of a lame duck Congress. Can we have a lame duck State Department, a lame duck foreign policy?
I think that's too critical because most foreign policy doesn't travel through the Congress. I mean, the Ukraine situation, the funding there, Tom, is in some ways different because, again, it requires congressional approval. So there, the real issue is what does the House of Representatives do? What do the Republicans do? But I think in the Middle East, with China and so forth, like in a lot of other areas, the presidents enjoy a lot of discretion, a lot of latitude. So I don't think it's fair to say that, even though the State Department, to be honest, is a weak duck. Most of the energy now in American foreign policy doesn't come from state. I would say the lion's share comes from the National Security Council, or in some of the issues you talk about on this show, I would say even the Commerce Department counts for a lot.
I don't want to get into your personal knitting here in your 48-hour day, but he's working 7 days a week.
There's no slowing down here.
Did any of the CEOs that greeted Mr. Xi in China, did any of them get a Haas briefing? And if not, how do you brief CEOs on confronting the new China?
They did not in this case, though I spend a lot of my day, given my new life in Centerview, talking to CEOs. And I think China's probably the single most frequently raised issue Tom. Look, Xi Jinping is courting CEOs. He did it in San Francisco in November, if you recall. He's doing it now. He is hoping that American CEOs essentially become all lobby for what China wants in the U.S. relationship, which essentially is fewer tariffs, lower constraints on investment, lower constraints on trade. And he's hoping that he can essentially get them to press the government to ease up on China. That's why in 2024, that's what China wants in 2024. What the Biden administration wants is no new hotspot with Taiwan or North Korea or anything else. But no, that's what this is about. And I think American CEOs need to understand that anything to deal with technology is going to be constrained with China. And if there's a crisis over Taiwan, nothing is immune from political pressure.